It's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Does my video look blurry to you? Hang on a second. I think that made it worse.
It's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
All right, that's what I get. That's what I get when I want to share a Jinder Mahal video with all of you. Jinder my balls. Remember those days? Jinder my balls. Jinder Mahal put up an awesome video that we are going to dissect in a little bit. He breaks down pretty much what a typical WWE contract is. And when I watched this video, two things came to mind. Number one, I can't believe someone didn't do this sooner, especially someone like David Otunga being an attorney, Bafangul. The second thing is that he spelled it out so simple, and you still had Matarazzas online going, Why don't you explain it like you explain it to a 5-year-old? I don't think a 5-year-old should know how a contract works, but we're going to get into that. I also got that video that's floating around that Liv Morgan may have blown out her knee going into Night of Champions. Honestly, guys, engagement baiting. I think that's the way to put it. I will tell you that anybody out there that is in the know with regards to, what's going on with Liv Morgan right now knows that she's already tweeted and gone on social media and said that she will be running to London because Raw obviously tomorrow is overseas, and they're still rage engaging to try to make it seem like she might have blown out her knee. But I'm going to show you the injury because a lot of people are taking it out on Sol Ruka, and that might be a little unfair. And speaking of unfair, a lot of you know over the years my thoughts about Tommy Dreamer. I've had positive things to say. I've had negative things to say. I have corrected some of the history that has been alleged by him. The first person to ever kick out of the Jimmy Snuka Superfly Splash. Remember, we contested that 2 years ago with proof, and he DM'd me. And I kind of felt bad afterwards, to be honest with you. But, ever since he was let go as the head of creative for TNA, there's been something strange going on lately. And, we're on the anniversary of hashtag speaking out, in case you don't know. Remember the Joey Ryan, Jack Gallagher, and all those other assholes that abused women? Well, I call this hashtag dreaming out. because now all of a sudden you have particular people in wrestling that are accusing him of racism, that's accusing him of sexism, that's accusing him of just being a bad person. Is it unfair? Is it unfair? I have some quotes. We will share them. We will get into it. That's not fair. That's shout out to Liv in the chat. Is it unfair? Mickie James going after a particular referee in defense of Tommy Dreamer. Was she kind of like doing exactly what she claimed the referee of doing? We'll make it all make sense in a little while. And obviously, because it's Sunday, this is the lazy show. I get into 2-3 big topics of discussion that we probably couldn't spend as much time on a Monday night. We discuss it here. And then we also get into all of your questions. We get into your comments. If you're in the chat, we get into it. If you're live, that's the only way to be part of it. And obviously, if anybody super chats, obviously you go to the front of the line. It's the only fair thing to do. You help pay the bills and you help buy Don Tony another cold water. Before I get into anything, I just want to wish each and every one of you out there a very happy Father's Day. I know that there's some of you out there that still have your dads and your granddads here. And I do know that there's, let's take Dreamer off the screen. Yeah, we could take him off the screen. I know there's a lot of you out there that still have your dads and granddads with you. There's also quite a few of you out there. Your dads and granddads are up above looking down, watching over you. And I will tell you that as you get older and as your family gets older, you realize do not take any days for granted. My father's going to be 78 years old. He survived the Widowmaker about 6 years ago, 5 years ago. And you guys were there as we went through this. Some of you were there, not physically, but you know what I mean. And I am so grateful that my mother and father are still here. And I do not take for granted Father's Day, Mother's Day, every day, because tomorrow's never guaranteed. I lost my father-in-law less than a month and a half ago. It's 5 weeks ago I lost my father-in-law, my wife's father. And you just don't know what a year from now is going to be. Now, I know I have old photos in the computer, so I'm always showing the same ones, but my father was gangster back in the day. My father was awesome. He's still awesome, but that's my father, just an unbelievable man. And for anybody that's going to ask me, what did I get my father for Father's Day? Come on, man. Come on. Tifa. I'm Italian. I'm the boss. Kabish. What do you get a 77-year-old Italian father who has everything? What do you get him? Well, the best thing I could get him was I got him one of those little wallet cards that you put in your wallet. And if you misplace your wallet, you go, hey, Siri, find my wallet. And it makes a sound and it tells him exactly where his wallet is. I got him one of these keychains that he puts on his keys. If he misplaces his keys, hey, Siri, where the fuck are my keys? And Siri will say it's over here and you don't have to curse, asshole. And it plays a sound. But since my father's Italian and I try to come up with something very unique, I got my father 35 pounds of prickly pears. Italians love their cactus pears. That is a screenshot from today. I legitimately bought my father 35 pounds of prickly pears. He ate 6 of them already. So I spent the day with my dad. My wife went to visit her father in the cemetery. I got her father a little thing of soccer balls that you put in the dirt by the grave because he was a huge soccer fan, especially with the World Cup going on. I just couldn't find Germany soccer balls because he loved Germany. But I hope everyone out there, your parents are here, your father's still here, happy Father's Day. And if they're up above, I know it's an extra hard day, but I just wanted to send love, honestly. So much love to all of you out there. My father's going to be shitting red tonight. He's going to call his doctor and he's going to say to his doctor, or he's going to go on Google Gemini or AI and he's going to say, hey, why am I shit not red? Well, what did you eat the night before? I had 14 prickly pears. If anybody's ever had a prickly pear, you know the deal. You eat too many of them, you shit red. So, got to look them up. You got to look them up. It's a fruit. It's a fruit, but very, very sweet. Very, very good fruit. Cactus pears, prickly pears, same thing. So, all right. I see some of you writing about your dads in the chat room. I tell you, I see what Big G wrote in 316 MMA, and some of you out there, my grandmother died in 1991. It still hurts to this day. And I am so angry that she died so early in my life, because at that time, technology isn't what it is today. I have nothing. I have no audio of her. I have no video of her. I got a couple of still photos and that's it. And I have to, through my mother, pretend that I remember what she sounds like. It sucks. It sucks. So this is why, especially today, if you have the capabilities, record. Trust me, in this fucking phone, I got video of my dad at Christmas time, and he's telling stories about hanging out with gangsters, and this guy showed up, and Gotti this and Gotti that, going to a football convention and having dinner with O.J. Simpson and all this other shit. I mean, and one time in this video, I'm recording, and I have my phone in my lap, so you didn't know. And as he's talking, he's doing his charismatic thing, and he's in his groove, and I'm just sitting there in amazement. I'm like, oh my God, I'll keep this for a lifetime. After about 10 minutes, he looks at me. He's like, are you recording me? I was like, no. I vowed never to play the footage until he's obviously no longer here. But it's footage that it's my father just, I wish my father was into wrestling, because he would be a fucking character on these shows, man. All right. What do you want to get into first? We could talk your questions. We could talk Tommy Dreamer. We could talk Jinder Mahal. We could talk Liv Morgan's injury. Or we could get into, I see some super shout outs, and there's a Jey Uso going to Night of Champions super chat. So Jey Uso, Jinder Mahal, Tommy Dreamer, Liv Morgan injury, or your questions. So let's see. But let's just, take your time, but hurry up. All right, Dreamer. Okay. Tommy Dreamer is out as head of TNA Creative. He went on Busted Open, and I wasn't trying to be a sarcastic prick when I said this, but he and TNA mutually agreed that he was fired. All right? There was no choice in the matter. It's not like, Tommy, we really want to go in a different direction, but, if you really, really want to stay, we really don't want to have you here, but, we would really love for you to just say, okay, I'm fine with it. And, we could publicly say we mutually agree. No, man, when you're getting rid of someone, there is no mutual. You have no fucking choice in the matter. Him going on Busted Open and saying they mutually agreed to part ways is a nice way of saying, Tommy, listen, we don't want you anymore. It's head of creative, but we don't want to make it seem like a hard negative, because you've worked so hard for us over the years. You didn't give us the results that we really wanted, but we're going to go in a different direction. So when he goes on Busted Open and says, we mutually agreed to part ways. No. There was no fucking choice in the matter. All right. TNA is downsizing their staff, and it's not just creative, it's office, it's production, it's a bunch of things. They feel that they have too many people on staff. Creative will be replaced, obviously, but some positions will not. Some positions will be an extension of others. So, the thing with Tommy Dreamer is this: he's out of a job. And it's interesting to see the response to it. Make no mistake about it. Tommy Dreamer, I don't know him personally. I met him a couple of times. The final year that I was pushing tickets for ECW in 2000, The incident with Matt Zombie selling the Beulah porn way back in the day, who's now Tommy Dreamer's wife. But I will tell you, I'm always disturbed that he publicly told us that he was so depressed and angered about what Paul Heyman did with ECW and financially how everything happened that he would have showed up at a WrestleMania or a live show and blow Paul Heyman's brains out. I don't care how close you were of doing that or how drunk you were when you said that. That is something that you do not make public. And I get it, depressed, unhinged, angry, or every emotion possible, but there's some things better kept inside. When he said that, I always looked at him differently, especially when you think about all the chair shots to the head, all the concussions. We know so much more about CTE and everything these days. I'm thinking to myself, my God, that is someone that you kind of feel if there's anybody that's going to act it out, it could be him. I just feel like it just really left a horrible taste in my mouth. Putting that aside, I will tell you, everybody that I know that I've met in wrestling that have talked about Tommy Dreamer have said nothing but good things about him. He is truly a genuinely good guy. All right. And this is why I say, is it fair to see what is happening right now? That's up to you to decide. That's not for me to decide. That's not for anybody else to decide, but you yourself. But I will say this. I did a lot of wrestle crap back in the day. 20 years ago, you saw the shit that I did. Some of it was fun. Some of it was not fun. There was people always trying to sabotage my shit. There's a few people that I've called out over the years, but if you notice the bigger names out there, I take good criticism. I take bad criticism. I take good advice, bad advice, and it's up to me to sort it out. There are some people out there that will look at someone and say, you will never make it in this business. And one day they may main event WrestleMania. Then you could have someone look at someone and say, you are going to go places. And it doesn't happen. All right. It's just human to sometimes give bad advice. And make no mistake about it, the people that have come forward now were given probably some bad advice by Tommy Dreamer, an opinion. But to hold a grudge like they have, I always feel you should be able to express yourself if something was done, if you were done dirty, okay? But if you look at the thumbnail that I made, and you will actually see Tommy Dreamer slapping a woman in the ass, okay? That photo is very, very relevant because some people are now coming public and saying that they've gotten some horrible advice from Tommy Dreamer. You even have this person, Carly Bravo. Okay, Carly Bravo. This is the first person I want to get into. Carly Bravo says that Tommy Dreamer told him he was very talented, but couldn't hire him because he didn't know if he could market a cocky black guy. Okay? Needless to say, I'm at the top of my game and never changed one bit. Run it up. Fuck what anybody else says. Okay? Carly Bravo. Now, that comes off in some people's mind as racist. The thing is we don't know what promotion it was for. We don't know what territory it was for. We don't know what part of the country it was for. And the thing is that you don't know who the rest of the roster is around the person. Now, to turn around and to say to someone, look, I don't know if we could get over a cocky black guy. All right. I know that sounds very, very blunt and vicious. And me, I wouldn't say it like that. And plus, we don't know if it was said specifically like that. But the thing is, and yes, this is the Charlie Bravo in AEW. Yes, it is. It is. All right. It's stupid advice. It's stupid advice. But to hold it as a grudge and hold it for now, especially when you know that the IWC is going to take it, spin it, exaggerate it, blow that shit up, and make it seem like Tommy Dreamer is the most horrible person on this earth, I just think is a little bit misguided. Because the thing is, wrestlers give bad advice. Promoters give bad advice. Sometimes they give great advice. I've told this story so many times over the years. I will never forget, I worked a show in Spanish Harlem, all right? And I actually managed, I think it was Homicide, and I don't remember who the other person was. It was Homicide and maybe Reefer against the Sandman and Raven, I believe it was. And the thing is that, you know, we did a spot where I took air freshener, and I asked what they thought about this. And I always told this story, Sandman. Now you think about Sandman's history with drinking and carelessness and everything. I will never forget this to the day I die. And there's a lot of indie people that remember this moment too. We were in Spanish Harlem in this Knights of Columbus or whatever. And about 2 hours before the show, Sandman is in the locker room and screams at the top of his lungs, "Hey, all the young guys, get your ass over here." And everybody who had little to no experience, including yours truly, came around him. And he, for a good hour and a half, listened to every single person's question and was trying to give advice. You're like, what do you think about my look? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And he would tell some people, do you want the truth? You want me to be honest? And he would say things. And I was just standing there mesmerized on this guy wanting to just help each person. You don't want to give just people what they want to hear. You want to tell them what you think. It might be good advice or bad advice. But when it came to me, I said to him, I said, listen, we're in Spanish Harlem. It's mostly black and Puerto Rican. I'm doing this Italian Howard Beach thing, you know, with John Gotti and everything like that. What do you think if I took this can of air freshener and I started spraying it around the ringside area, you know, to make it seem like the whole arena smells because of the people in the crowd? He's like, that's a little borderline. He says, but I will tell you this. He says, you have to get some of that shit in your eyes later on. So I said, okay. So the bottom line was, he said, if you're going to do that, you better make sure that you get it handed to you at the end. So later on in the show, we did a spot where he was laid in the corner and I had the spray. And if I had any aerosol, actually, I don't know if this is safe. No, this is glue, man. If this glue goes in the air, I'm going to fucking, I don't have, here. I got spray air. This is safe. I can spray air. All right, we'll take the straw out because I don't want the straw to fly. So pretend this is air freshener. So as I come out, I'm spraying all around the ringside area, and I'm like, oh my God, this smells like shit. It smells like shit. And people are like, fuck you. And I'm spraying all around the area. It smells nice. So later on in the show, I go in the ring, and Sandman's in the corner, and I have the air freshener that I used earlier, and I'm like this, and everybody's seeing, and I'm like this, and I go up to him, and I push, and I push. I'm pushing the button, and nothing's coming out. So as I'm doing this, I turn it around to look at it, and this is what happens. And I blinded myself. And when I blinded myself, that motherfucker took out his Singapore cane and started bashing me with it. I ran under the ring and almost shit my pants. And for the rest of the match, I was under the ring until the end. After the match was over, I crawled from under the ring, and people are still at ringside. And like, hey, great show. And I'm like, look, I hope you didn't take it personal about the efforts. No, he says just part of everybody at ringside was cool. My point is, you know, sometimes someone will give you good advice or bad advice or something you take personally. I had people used to say to me, dude, you're never going to be able to wrestle. I worked at the VPW wrestling. I trained at the VPW wrestling school for 9 months. For 9 months, I had my share of throwing up in buckets, running the ropes. I couldn't take a back bump. When I had my car accident, my neck is 18 inches. But and everybody thinks like I got big, broad upper shoulders and neck, and I always thought I had great strength. But when I started training at school, every time we did a back bump, my head would whip back and I'd hit the back of my head against the mat. Every single time. And they're like, tuck your neck in, tuck your neck in, tuck your neck in. No matter what I did, I kept whipping it back. And one of the trainers came over to me. He's like, listen, you should be a manager. He's like, look, he says, I know you're trying and everything. He says, but you just, I don't know what you did in your car accident, but your neck is fucked. He says, you have no strength in your neck. And I'm saying to myself, what is he talking about? I mean, I could lift a decent amount of weight. What does it mean I have no strength in my neck? I don't have no neck pain. I have no numbness. But he said to me, he's like, look, you're not going to be able to do it. I didn't hold a grudge. Now, if I would have ended up doing it, I would have been like, hey, I guess you were wrong. But what I feel like what's going on now is wrestlers have a grudge. They hold a grudge. They take it really, really personal. And you have this referee now, this referee that works for GCW. And I have seen some of his work, and he's a good referee. Now, I don't know if he was trying out to be a referee at the time or if he was trying to wrestle. I don't know what he was trying to do. But he goes public, and his name is Perch. He goes public and says this, and this is important because it sparked an interesting response from Mickie James. He says, Tommy Dreamer pulled me backstage at a TNA show, telling me he would do everything he could to make sure I don't earn a job in the wrestling business. All I did was try to learn and grow from experience. Though his words were very discouraging for a young student to hear. I didn't set out to prove him wrong. I simply thanked him for his advice and went in another direction. The pro wrestling business is for everybody. You have to find where you fit best. Don't perform just for someone else's ideal vision. Perform for your own passion. Take critique like a professional and thank them for their time. However, don't allow someone to coerce you. Share your burning desire to succeed in the pro wrestling business with others who appreciate you. This is a community, not a tyranny. Now, that's a great comment to make. But when you say take critique as a professional, Perch, with all due respect, is it professional to fucking throw that dirty laundry out there, especially since you went in a different direction and it worked? That's not professional. Just because someone gives you bad advice doesn't mean you tell the world. You have to tell the world. No one is perfect. I've gotten bad advice in stock. I've gotten bad advice in wrestling. I've gotten bad advice in relationships. All right? It can't be that everything goes your way and it doesn't go your way, then you tell the world. In my honest opinion, he's very good at what he does. I'm not criticizing him. But you basically went into the weeds and did the very thing. What you did is the very same thing that you were upset about, is you threw somebody in the weeds with you. So now Mickie James responds. Now you would think on the surface, I would say, you go, Mickie James. I think Mickie James did worse. Mickie James says this, and I quote, if you're going to come on here and attempt to bury someone, especially someone who is as loved, respected, and is responsible for helping so many folks, including myself in this industry, then at least be completely honest. I understand you want to speak your truth and possibly gain a bit of recognition and jumping on the bandwagon. However, if this is your path of 15 seconds of buzz, at least have the common decency to speak the whole truth. That ain't it. It's also pretty dumb because Tommy will always have a job in this business. I don't know if I could say the same for you. Have a blessed day. So now I read that, and yes, she's coming to the defense of Tommy Dreamer. But Mickie, with all due respect, you don't know if it's the whole fucking truth or not. We always say there's this side, and somewhere in the middle is the truth. She don't know either what's true and what's not. She's immediately assuming that this referee is only telling half the story. She doesn't make it better either. In my honest opinion, you know, in this world, there's a lot of soft people. And in this world, not everybody's going to be able to cut whatever job they're looking to do. Whether it's wrestler, office, you know, doctor, people will dream of wanting to do something. You know, I just talked about this on Patreon the other day. My father, his dream in 1991 was for me to become a cop. And I took the cop test and I got a 92. I even showed on Patreon not too long ago a picture of my test result. And once it came to the physical training, I couldn't do it. I quit. I was like, I can't do this. All right. Not everything, you're not going to be able to cut out everything you try to do. But to turn around and to hold it as a grudge and hold it against you, and simply because Tommy Dreamer now is out as head of creative at TNA, and you put this out there, you're very unprofessional. I think this referee, even if that story is true, which I do believe some of it is, I think it's very unprofessional. This guy, Carly Bravo, you know, to turn around and to throw that out there, you know, not understanding more of it. You know, if I did a show in a certain neighborhood and the neighborhood is predominantly black, all right, if I'm working for a promoter and he says to me, hey, listen, I don't know if we could get over a fucking cocky white guy over here. You know, that's not racist. All right, I'm sorry. I don't know if Tommy Dreamer was just crapping on this guy because he's black. I just think, in my honest opinion, all right, you get bad advice, you take it, you put it as a chip on your shoulder, and you show that person privately. All right, I'll tell everybody one very quick story, and there's more, because you also have Danny Jordan. A lot of you know her and what she's done. And she's talking about Tommy Dreamer. And by the way, could someone out there get me the name of the other women's wrestler that is involved in this picture? I want to mention her name because she went public too and said that she wanted to take a Singapore cane shot to the head. And Tommy Dreamer says, no, we don't do that. Instead, I'm going to slap you in the ass. And that's an actual photo from that event. That's an actual photo. She kept that with her for years and years. And everybody's interpreted as being sexist. All right. Maybe it's more of a case where Tommy Dreamer doesn't want to physically hit a woman between the eyes with a Singapore cane. Maybe it's more Tommy Dreamer of what he used to do with Beulah and Kimona and Francine and others. And even in TNA, you know, you do the goofy, like you get the girl and you slap her in the ass. That doesn't mean he wants to put his finger up it. All right. Yeah, I wouldn't do it. But to turn around and it's okay if he commits this kind of violence on me. But when it comes to slapping my ass, no, that is sexual. That is perverted. That's this. And I just feel, again, if someone says to you something stupid, you know, to hold this for years in the bag, and when that person is finally at their low and other people are speaking out, I just feel all of this just shows that people can't handle rejection. People can't handle, you know, stupid advice, bad advice. To turn around and throw this out there right now, I honestly think doesn't help anybody. It's almost like, all right, fuck you, Tommy. And me telling you fuck you by appearing on AEW is not enough. I have to embarrass you. All right. The thing that, and listen, I believe this guy Perch. I believe Carly Bravo. I believe Danny Jordan. And I believe this young lady as well. Could someone please get me her name? I would love to acknowledge her name. But I'll say this. What's the difference between what they did and what Tommy Dreamer did? What I'm about to say ends this discussion. What's the difference between what they did, what Tommy Dreamer did? Tommy Dreamer did not go on Twitter and tell the whole fucking world, Perch, you suck, and I'm going to make sure the way you are right now and as bad as you are, I'm going to make sure you don't get a job anywhere. Did he go publicly and tweet to that young lady and say, we don't do Singapore cane shots. I know you want to get hit with a Singapore cane shot, but, you know, if I'm going to do anything, I'll slap you in the ass. Because that's what I'm always known for doing. All right? When he goes to Carly Bravo, I don't think he went on X in front of the world and say, hey, Carly, I don't think we could push a fucking cocky black guy. All right? Yeah, I think Tommy Jr. would have been vilified for saying that. The point is, this was private conversations. Tommy Dreamer didn't say it in front of the world, but they felt the need to say it in front of the world. Why? Why? Because when you say it in front of the world, you think you have extra ammunition. Just telling Tommy Dreamer, fuck you privately is not good enough. I have to have 100,000 people tell you fuck you as well. And that's why I feel Perch, Carly Bravo, Danny Jordan, and this other young lady, Kennedy Hardcastle. I think you're right. I think you are right. I think it's Kennedy Hardcastle. Thank you very much, Scorpion. I think they're all wrong. I'll tell everybody a very quick story and we'll move on. And there's others going to come out. That's why I'm, instead of speaking out, since we're at the anniversary of hashtag speaking out, I called it dreaming out. This is a true story. A lot of you already know this story. Some people in my Patreon know this story. I went to PS 128 grammar school and I got thrown out. I got thrown out in 4th grade. Me and my friend Danny DiLorenzo did a lot of mischievous stuff in that school, PS 128, Middle Village, Queens. And my principal at the time, his name was John Iorio, Principal Iorio. You could Google it. Everything I'm saying is true. In 4th grade, I got thrown out of school. And the reason why I got thrown out of school is because we used to have these radiators in our classroom. And what me and my friend Danny did was we collected a whole bunch of bottle caps in the schoolyard because people would drink beer. And at that time, all the beer was bottles, little bottles with caps. And what we did was we took our crayons and we put crayons in every bottle cap and we laid them on top of the radiator. And we melted the crayons in the radiator and then we were going to take them off the radiator and make them hard and then throw it at people. And what happened was a bunch of the bottle caps fell inside the radiator and somehow burnt it out. And some of you know the story that when I was in 3rd grade, my parents went to parent-teacher night. And every grade on my report card was either an A or a B. But when it came to behavior, I had an F or a D. And Anthony is a great student, smart student, but he misbehaves in class. My father came home. My father saw a hanger on my table and fucking cracked me over the hand with it. Because he's paying to try to give me a good education. And I got good grades, but I misbehaved and I got thrown out of school in 4th grade. I ended up having to leave and go to St. Margaret's to finish out up until 8th grade. From grade 5 to 8, I went to St. Margaret's School in Middle Village and I graduated. Then I went to St. Francis Prep and the rest is history. So I ended up doing pretty good. The principal Iorio lives, I don't think he's alive anymore, but he lived in Howard Beach. Back around maybe the year 2000, I'm at my father's store and I see him in the parking lot. He's putting grocery in his car. And I walked up to him and I grabbed the groceries. He doesn't know who I am. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, let me help you. And I put the groceries in the car. Now, keep in mind, I have not seen him since, 1981, 82? So this is now almost the year 2000. And I said to him, I said, I don't know if you remember me. I said, I'm Anthony DeBlasi. And he looks at me, he says, Anthony DeBlasi, why does that name sound so familiar? And he's like, oh, you got thrown out of school. I said, that's me. He's like, how you doing? And I'm like, I'm doing pretty good. And we were talking a little bit. And he's like, listen, at the time, blah, blah, blah. But he was taking shots at me thinking that I never was going to make it. So I said, no, I have an insurance office now. I said, look upstairs. He looks upstairs. I said, that's my insurance office. Really? I'm like, yeah, in fact, the store you just shopped in, that's my father's store. He's like, I had no idea. I said, yeah. I said, we're all doing great. And, I didn't say fuck you to him. I didn't thank him for throwing me out, but he started with these comments thinking like I didn't succeed in life, or, I ended up being a fuck up, or this and that. And when I told him that I had that insurance office and he just shopped in my dad's store, we never saw him ever again. He never shopped in the store ever again. Because I told my father, when he left, I said, you remember him? He says, no. I said, that was the principal for PS 128. He's like, really? I was like, yeah. And he's like, what'd you tell him? I said, I just told him, I got the insurance officer. And that was my way of saying, fuck you. I mean, I deserve to get kicked out, make no mistake about it. But this guy kind of enjoyed throwing my ass out of school. And when he saw me 18 years later, 19 years later, and he's starting to throw little digs like, what'd you end up doing? What'd you end up making of you? So like the way he was saying it, you could tell like he was hoping for a negative answer. And I just told him, I started my own business. I do this. This is my father's store. He owns a shopping center. And he drove away, never saw him ever again. That is the God honest truth. I just feel somebody's telling me to say radiator again. Radiator. Some people say radiator. I say radiator. Radiator. So the point is, sometimes someone's going to be a dick to you. I mean, in wrestling, quite a few people were an asshole towards me. But I'm not going to sit here and just like throw darts at them, and I just think like these people held that inside. Yeah, keep it as a chip on your shoulder and show them that they made a terrible mistake about you. All right, of course. But to turn around and to do this, in my honest opinion, what Perch said about being respectful, he did none of it. Just because you say it eloquently doesn't mean that it's good. Listen, sir, if it's all right with you, I would like to take this salami and just gently penetrate it forcefully up your buttocks. And I would like to twist it and turn it. And I would like to do this. And I think it would, just because you say it eloquently doesn't make it any better. So this is just the start of it. That's why I'm bringing this up. This is just the start of it. You're going to see other people come out and say things. I think Tommy Dreamer, being a Northeast New York guy, is very brutally honest in what he says. And some of the things, I mean, my God, look at Tough Enough. Look at other, reality stuff we've seen over the years. I went to fucking the Navy. I went to boot camp. And I ended up leaving with an honorable discharge because I went in there over 300 pounds. I walked in there and they're like, what are you doing here? You're not physically qualified. How the fuck did you get in here? And my nickname that I got was Polar Bear because I look like a giant white bear. And they weren't saying complimentary. Hey, Polar Bear. What do you know what I mean? It's just like, there's always going to be someone that is going to, give you bad advice or bring you down. And to hold it in the bag, like one day when Tommy Dreamer is down, I'm going to throw that shit online with a smile on my face. And I think I'm inspiring people. All you're doing is baiting people to come out and shit on this guy. And I just think that's so much wrong with a lot of what's going on today. And the sad part is I believe almost every one of them. I believe pretty much everything that they said. But even Mickie James coming to his defense, she did no better than any of them. So we'll see. We will see what happens next. But very quickly, I do want to show you this footage of Liv Morgan. There was a four-way match earlier. And it's weird because it was a four-way match and then there was a tag match, with the tour. So I think some people were mixing it up. And unfortunately, some people out there, and they're showing the video on X, you might watch it and you might see it like very warped and distorted. You might say, what kind of technology are these people using on their phones in 2026? Understand that it's not necessarily the footage. It's just that people try to erase logos from the people who posted the video or tried to cramp it and crop it. And by editing the logos off, they distorted the whole fucking video. I don't have any problem whatsoever giving credit to this pro wrestling vlogs who posted this video. But if you look even on some of the video on social media that's floating around, it's all like wiped out and distorted, and you can't even make out the people sometimes. And that's because people spent more time trying to remove their logos from this. But I just want you to see the injury point of what happened. You'll see Io Sky, she dives outside the ring. I believe they're taken out. And then you'll see Sol Ruca in the ring with Liv Morgan. Okay, you see this first. Liv attempts an oblivion. Doesn't happen. Io Sky hits a suplex. And now you have, I guess this is Lyra Vicaria, right? This is Lyra Vicaria, going outside with Io. Now here, there's Lyra Vicaria setting up Liv. Here you go. I think this was the four-way because who would have teamed up with Liv Morgan in this? All right, so Liv is down now. She goes for the pin attempt. Obviously, she's not going to get it. So Sol Ruca should be entering the picture any second. So I don't want to fast forward. There you go. There's Sol Ruca. All right, so now Sol Ruca, you see? There you see. See the leg? Let's do that one more time. Watch very closely. Watch Sol Ruca when she enters the ring. She attempts, I guess, a soul snatcher or whatever, and she lands, she clips Liv Morgan's leg. There, watch right now. There's a spot. Liv Morgan's leg is clipped. And Liv is holding her leg. She rolls out of the ring. And like I said, you got people engagement farming on social media right now, knowing that she's already gone on social media saying that she's going to run to London, England. Now, is she a little bit sore? I would think so. I would absolutely think so. But she's out of this match for quite some time. Yeah, let's fast forward a little bit. Let's go a little further. Okay, let's get Liv Morgan back in the picture. Okay, here's an attempted moonsault. This is the four-way. This can't be the tag match. There's Liv breaking it up. Now, right now, her leg seems pretty good, right? But she sells it again. She sells it again. Ultimately, obviously, Liv retains. There you see, attempted soul snatcher. Double soul snatcher. She snatched a couple of souls there. There you go. Raquel Rodriguez with the save. Roxanne's putting Liv on top of Lyra Vicaria, and there you go. That's the win. So, as far as we know, she's okay. As far as we know, she's okay. All right. But I didn't want to sit here and be like, oh my God, is Liv okay? What's going to happen in Saudi Arabia? Oh my God. What if she can't compete? Oh my God. That's what people are doing right now. I just say, Liv said she's going to England. She's going to run to England. So I would think that sounds uplifting, but they're leaving that part out. You know what they'll do? They'll wait 8 hours. They'll put major update on Liv Morgan. Liv now says she's going to be running to England. All right. By the way, you should check out this week's history show. We put it up yesterday. A lot of people seem to forget Barack Obama at WWE Capital Punishment. An absolute disaster. This is an actual pay-per-view poster from WWE Capital Punishment. That's WWE with Obama in the middle of Rey Mysterio and John Cena. Capital Punishment. God awful. God awful. Awful pay-per-view. This week's history show is a good one. All right. Let's get into a couple of questions, and then we'll get into Jinder Mahal and the contract breakdown. I promise you, this is spectacular. It gives you a good insight as far as how WWE not only handles bonuses, but it also shows you how they determine who gets what and how it builds. And the thing that's so fascinating about it is when the way Jinder Mahal describes it reminds me of when I became an insurance broker in 1998. See, when I started my insurance brokerage in 1998, I had no customers. So after a month, my commission is zero, no customers. Slowly you build customers. So you build customers and you get paid. The idea is after 1 year, you save as many customers as you can get to carry over for another year, and then you add new customers. And that's how you expand. WWE contract is very much the same of that. And when I watched him break this down, I'm like, fuck you, David Otunga. Fuck you, all these people out there that do these videos that never broke it down like this. They never did. And the way Jinder I'm like, Jinder Mahal, that was awesome. So we will do that momentarily. All right, couple of quick super shout outs. We'll answer a few questions in the chat. Then we'll get to Jinder. We'll answer some more questions. And then we're going to exit. Now, tomorrow, I'm still undecided if we're going to go live like around 6 or 7 p.m. to do the Don Tony show. I may record it early and then just upload it for everyone. I'll let everybody know by tomorrow. We're all going to do predictions for I almost had a brain fart. Night of Champions. We will definitely do predictions for that. For Forbidden Door, we will do predictions on Wednesday. We'll do predictions for Great American Bash on Wednesday because you know they're going to be adding a few additional matches to it. But definitely tomorrow we'll do the Don Tony show. We'll recap Raw a little bit. We'll get into predictions. But right now, this is from Ronnie C. Ronnie, thank you for the 20 spot, my friend. He says, Happy Father's Day, DT. What's my thoughts on Jey Uso going to Night of Champions to fight Oba? Do I still think he wins King of the Ring? I have been saying this now for 3 weeks. I don't like to repeat myself, not because, I told you so, but I watched a lot of people's reaction after Friday SmackDown, and I'm like, where were you 3 weeks ago? I mean, once Seth Rollins was out of this, the only other logical name is Jey Uso. And remember the seed planting. Friends versus friends. Jey Uso versus Cody Rhodes is, in WWE's eyes, the most interesting match that Cody could have going into SummerSlam. That's provided that Cody retains his championship. As we said over a week ago, that Sami Zayn is going to cause an absolute clusterfuck refereeing Gunther versus Cody Rhodes. And what happened was exactly what we expected would happen. And now it leads to the three-way, which is exactly what we expected to happen. And now you can have a way, if you really wanted to be controversial, you could have Cody lose the championship without being pinned. But at the same time, you could have Sami Zayn get pinned and Gunther gets burned because of it. And remember, CM Punk is getting close to returning. And you got to ask yourself, who is CM Punk going to be going after once he returns? I mean, most people believe that he's going to go to SmackDown, which makes complete sense because you can't reintroduce him to the Roman Reigns stuff. You can't. That bridge is already sailed. That ship is already sailed, I should say. So you try to figure it out. But Jey Uso winning this, again, you look at Jey Uso when he's in that building. All the fans are into him. Yes, we criticize Jey Uso quite a bit. He has become a cartoon character, all right? He's been doing the same shit for 5 years. Not too long ago, we played a promo from 2020 and we played one from 2025. And it's the same thing. He died to me. She died to me. You all died to me. Everybody died to me. I don't know it. And it's the same thing. Now he wins against Javon Evans. And what's the first thing he does? He goes to social media and rubs it. And I'm like, the majority of fans out there, whether we like to say this or not, the majority of fans out there like Jey Uso. All right. They just don't like the way it's forced. When he fought Gunther, the way he beat Gunther and the way it was forced to do a certain narrative with the tapping and all that, fans didn't like it. Fans didn't like Cody Rhodes beating Gunther the way he did at the last Premium Live event. You know, fans just don't like the way it's been given to us. Jey Uso versus Cody Rhodes is very intriguing. Plus, it also takes the focus off the fact that Jey and Jimmy Uso are doing fucking nothing right now. All right. I can sit here and just say, guys, it sucks. Guys, Jey Uso going to the finals, it sucks. It sucks. It's awful. It's terrible. It's awful. It sucks. WWE, what the fuck you doing? It sucks. I can sit here and do that for an hour. But I'm trying to understand why they're doing it. All right. I truthfully believe Brock Lesnar is going to cost Obafemi King of the Ring. If you watch for the last 3 weeks, Oba is literally telling you, hey, Brock, I'm going to poke that bear. I'm going to poke that bear. Brock Lesnar, where are you? Brock Lesnar, I'm the ruler. Brock Lesnar, after I win, Brock Lesnar, where are you? Brock Lesnar, I'm the ruler. Brock Lesnar. Sounds like a chicken. Why is he bringing up Brock Lesnar? Because they're going to have the third match at SummerSlam. I mean, it's been fed to us for 3 weeks. Brock Lesnar. You can't have the match in Saudi Arabia. They could, but I don't think anybody wants that. You want to build that up to a fucking double Premium Live event. WWE's already got their $50 million for Saudi Arabia. You're going to do King of the Ring finals. You're going to do Queen of the Ring finals. You're going to have a world championship match. You're going to have a women's match. I mean, there's some big fucking matches going in Saudi Arabia. Brock Lesnar. No, you don't have to do Oba Brock 3 in Saudi Arabia. You got a whole shitload of stuff happening already. But Brock Lesnar would go to Saudi Arabia and fucking cost him King of the Ring. Soon as Seth Rollins lost that, Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker in a cage. This card is loaded. You're not going to have Brock Lesnar show up on Raw, take out Jey Uso, I'm in King of the Ring. I mean, I know people are throwing it out there. What do you think Adam Pearce could say? Okay. I sound like Tony Montana and Scarface. Okay. Like, what? Was Paul? Ladies and gentlemen. Okay. No. You want surprise. You want a surprise factor. Just when Oba is about to fucking pick up Jey, maybe a referee bump, and then here comes Brock Lesnar. Hey, you talked about me for 3 fucking weeks. No problem. You know, I said this joking around last week with Eric Bischoff, that dumb video he did with Conrad, with all due respect, and none against Conrad. But Eric Bischoff like, this storyline makes no sense. He put his boots on and blah, 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 and then he took his boots off and blah, 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 and why is he back all of a sudden? Maybe it's the way they did the contract. You know, by him being a free agent and retired, we don't have to hear, you know, Brock Lesnar, his contract is up in a year and they're not using him in this and that. So now it seems like Brock Lesnar is not being paid by WWE until he is paid by WWE. But the thing is, you know, we talked about it when we thought that Asuka was going to have a retirement match at WrestleMania. You know, it certainly feels like Brock, they might have had him offer a pay cut or Brock or something. He's like, no problem, this is my last match. It's no problem, this is my last match. Taking my shoes off and that's it. And then they realize, holy shit, we left money on the table with Oba and this and that. He's like, okay, I'll come back. That's why Paul Heyman said, he's retired. After you watch the Jinder Mahal video, he's retired. That's how they're handling it now. So you don't have to worry about contract no more. But it makes sense. Remember this. If you want me to say this like a 5-year-old, like some people say, this is how you say it. 5 weeks before WrestleMania, Brock Lesnar came out and said, open challenge for WrestleMania. 1 week later, Oba accepted that challenge and the match was on. Penta had his open challenge defending the Intercontinental Championship. Once Oba came to the main roster, Penta stopped the open challenge. Oba cut a promo and said, since someone else stopped their open challenge, I'm issuing one now. Anyone that wants to come out here and fight me, open challenge. 1 week later, Brock showed up and accepted an open challenge. That's where we had Brock Oba 2. And Brock got his win back. So now you had Oba answering Brock's open challenge, Brock answering Oba's open challenge, and now it's 1-1. And since Oba is going to be given the push here, the rub, the favors, passing the torch, however you want to call it, now you do 3. Are we going to sit here and be like, no. He retired. He put his boots in the ring. No. Come on, man. This is wrestling. Have a Snickers bar. But Brock took his shoes off. I don't care if he took his underwear off. It's wrestling. So what? Terry Funk retired and unretired 100,000 times in his career. People are just making this into like something ridiculously stupid. But what? This is entertainment. Just imagine Halloween 2. Halloween 2, Michael Myers. Fucking, or even the end of Halloween 1. He fucking falls out of a house. Shot 7 times. Donald Pleasant looks down and he's gone. Just imagine if X was around. You had all these fucking freaky wrestling people. You can't have Halloween 2? No, he's dead. No, you can't have Halloween 4. Can't call 3. No, he got hit by a car. He got burned alive. He's dead. No. You can't do it. Shut up. I don't like that Jey Uso's in this. But the storyline is Jey Cody. That's it. So whether you like it or you don't like it, understand it. When you understand it, it's not as shocking. But I think some people out there want to be shocked because it just makes it seem that much more nauseating. It's like a bad relationship. Like, you see it coming. You see the breakup coming. But you just rather like, no sell it, and think of other things and talk about this and talk about that. And then when suddenly it happens, bam, like, I can't believe it. This is awful. This is shocking. I can't believe it. They're actually going to do it. 3 weeks we were talking about that. As soon as Seth was out, Jey was the one. And Oba, Brock Lesnar. Tomorrow in London, Brock Lesnar. Brock's like, oh, you called? Yeah, no, I'm here, bitch. Yeah, 3, SummerSlam. That's what's going to happen. All right, shout out to Todd Pelkey. Todd, thank you very much for your generosity. My friend, thank you. I hope you're enjoying the show. I hope you're enjoying your weekend. Happy Father's Day to you and your family. Oh, don't get me wrong. Me thinks that that's not what a majority of the fans want with Jey Uso. I agree. I don't want to see Jey Uso against Cody. I don't want to see Jey Uso being crowned. I want to see, if you remember the Photoshop that we did last week, I don't think I have it in my computer anymore. I definitely want to see Jacob Fatu crown him. Rowan, acknowledge him. Nah, 100. Nah, man. Nah. Acknowledge him. Crown him. That's the only part I want to see. I want to see Jacob Fatu put the crown on Jay's head. That's the only thing I want to see. If Jay slipped on a fucking banana peel outside the ring, if he fucking twisted his ankle, fine. I don't want to see it either. I'm trying to make sense of it. I don't want to see Jey Uso versus Cody. I think Cody versus CM Punk would be a spectacular SummerSlam match. Even if you wanted to do a fatal four-way and have CM Punk versus Sami Zayn versus Gunther versus Cody Rhodes, I'd be fine with that also. They want to do this Jey thing because they're doing nothing else. Jey and Jimmy forgot about the tag titles. They lost the tag titles to the Vision. And that's it. All they do is talk stupid shit to LA Knight and walk around with Roman. They're doing nothing. I mean, I'm sure their legs are appreciating it. I'm sure Jay's looking down in his legs and he's like, hey, keep up the good work. And by the way, nice catch in NXT. You know, like they're doing nothing. Like we don't even talk about them trying to regain the tag titles. They're doing nothing. This is a way of shifting it. When Roman was trying to get everybody to acknowledge his family last week, go listen back to what he said about Jimmy, Big Jim. And you realize, like, as he's talking, he's probably saying to himself, yeah, we've kind of fucked Big Jim a little bit. So I'm with you. Just because Jay's in the final and could win it, and I think will win it, doesn't mean that I like it. I'm trying to make sense of it and understand it. Let's just hope that Jey Uso does not defeat Cody Rhodes for the undisputed WWE Championship. I got to build on that impersonation. All right. Can we talk about Jinder Mahal a little bit? Jinder Mahal. All right. Let's talk about the Jinder. The Jinder. I have to put headphones on for this because we will pause it multiple times because we're going to break down what Jinder Mahal says here. Ooh, I sound different. Jinder Mahal spent a lot of time handwriting something that we probably can't make out. I could zoom in. You don't really need to look at the handwriting or anything like that. But Jinder Mahal gave us a spectacular explanation as to how a WWE contract is structured for about 90% of the roster. Of course, Lesnar is handled differently. Of course, some part-timers are handled differently. AJ Lee handled differently, obviously. There's some people, probably Brie Bella, you know, there's some exceptions to the rule. But as he explains it, you have your base salary, and then you have incentives. And this could be some additional reasons as to why the New Day left. Because when you understand that they're not being used as much on pay-per-view, and they're not, you know, having matches on TV as much, when you talk about the pot, you know, he'll explain it. You got to focus on that. Because here's the thing, and I have to say this before we start, because this was the number one question that people on the IWC were asking in response to Jinder Mahal's video. What they were asking is this, okay? He uses the example of $1 million a year, because a lot of wrestlers get paid at least $1 million a year. So when you average that out, it's about $20,000 a week. Get $20,000. Now, some people are saying when he talks about the pot, why is the $20,000 put in the pot where it's already paid out to the wrestler, meaning that it's already part of the contract? Why is that mentioned again? And it'll make sense in a minute, but for those out there that are good, could be asking the same question, let me just answer it now so it'll make sense. When WWE gives you $1 million a year, it's not, here, enjoy it, good, thank you. No, they're trying to recoup that money and make more on it. You are an investment. A wrestler is an investment. They want to make sure that we got $1 million back and then some. We don't give out, meaning them, we don't give out $1 million contracts and be in the red. What are we, Tony Khan? No, but you want to make money on that person. So this kitty, this pot, the idea is if WWE's paying you $1 million a year, that pot should be over $1 million. Because if it's over $1 million, that means you may help them make money during that year. And it's a collective effort. So let's break this down. Let me put the headphones back on and let Jinder Mahal explain this a little bit. And if anybody in the chat has any questions as this is going along, post it and I'll be happy to answer it, because I totally understood every aspect of what Jinder Mahal said. And what's great about this too is you understand why some wrestlers may be let go when you don't think that they should be let go. Here's Jinder.
How does a WWE contract actually work? For this example, let's sign a 3-year, $1 million per year contract, downside guarantee. WWE pays its talent every single week. So take your downside guarantee of $1 million divided by 52 for 52 weeks. Your weekly check will be $19,230. For the sake of this example, let's round it up to $20,000. Now, with a downside guarantee, that $20,000 check will come in regardless if you are injured or if you wrestle 7 days a week. Same amount every single week.
Okay, that's very important. We just talked about Chad Gable, even on the History Show. This week is the anniversary of Chad Gable learning about having a surgery and WWE deciding to test out Kaiser as a grande americano. Chad Gable, whatever his contract was being paid for, that's a guarantee. So when Chad Gable was out of action for 7 months, WWE does not add time to that 7 months. I'm sure they probably can if there's a clause in the contract, but if you notice many times, especially if someone is let go, they don't add that time to the contract. Jinder Mahal does not mention anything about time being added because of injury. So if you're paid $20,000 a week, whether you're wrestling or you're not wrestling, you get $20,000 a week. It's just like in baseball. You make a certain salary every week. Whether you play every game or you play no games, you still get that paycheck every week. That's why when some wrestlers are frustrated that they're not being used on television, we could leave those names anonymous, especially in AEW. You understand that whether they're on TV or they're not, they're still making that paycheck every single week. All right, we continue.
Now, can a WWE wrestler out-earn their downside guarantee? Absolutely. A downside guarantee is only a minimum. There is no maximum. There is no set maximum. So what WWE uses is what's called a bucket system. Now, the bucket system is imaginary in nature. It is essentially off the books. You will receive the same amount every single week. But what the bucket does is it keeps track of how much money is going out and how much money you are actually earning. Television tapings, live events, pay-per-views, merchandise, everything goes into this bucket. So let's start the bucket off, obviously, week 1 at 0. $20,000 goes out. You wrestled on Raw. You got $5,000, imaginary number. All of these numbers are imaginary. Your balance in the bucket is negative $15,000 after week 1.
All right. So that's where people completely lost it in this video. So as you hear already, you get paid $20,000 a week. So now you're in the WWE for 1 week. So now for that first week, they gave you $20,000 and you appeared on Raw. So Raw, your pay to be on Raw also is $5,000. So we paid out $20,000 for your paycheck, and we got back through the ticket sales and everything else, advertising. They somehow figure out that your part of being on Monday Night Raw, it comes out to $5,000. So after week 1, WWE is in the hole for $15,000. Why? Because they gave you $20,000 for the first week, and your appearance on Raw only gave us $5,000 back. WWE, they want to make money off of you, not just use you. That's the big difference between AEW and WWE. It's not one is better than the other, but you need to understand this is how it works. So after week 1, there is no merchandise yet. There is no pay-per-views yet. After week 1, WWE is $15,000 in the negative because they haven't made money off of you as of yet. We continue.
Don't let it scare you. Your weekly amount remains the same. Week 2, same thing. Minus $20,000 for your weekly pay. You brought in $5,000 for Raw. You're now negative $30,000. Don't let it scare you. Same amount hits your bank account.
I won't keep interrupting as much, but I'll say this. Now you look at 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, WWE gave you 40 grand in your pocket. You appeared on Raw 2 times. They got 10 back. So that bucket now is $30,000 in the negative.
Week 3, $20,000 goes out. You work a pay-per-view, you get $50,000. You wrestle on Raw, $10,000. You were in the main event, and it was a sold-out arena. You are now positive $10,000 in this bucket.
Why is it positive 10,000? 3 straight weeks paid 60 grand in the bucket. 3 straight weeks on Raw, 15,000 out of the bucket. You're negative 45,000. Now you work a pay-per-view. Now you work this, and now you represent 50,000 for that event. Now you're in the positive in that bucket. We continue.
That doesn't mean you get $10,000. Again, this is imaginary. It's plus $10,000, but your weekly check remains the same. And if it was in the negative, you do not owe WWE money. This is imaginary in nature for now. Week 4.
One other thing, the bucket is like commission. One of the first jobs I ever had, if anybody remembers Amway Vacuums, I think it was Amway, was the name of the company. We got paid a certain salary every week. But if we sold any vacuums door to door, we would get extra commission. So if I sold no vacuums, my downside would be whatever my paycheck is. But if I sold 5 vacuums, I got paid extra. So that's kind of the same idea here, but you don't get this pay every week that's in a bucket because the bucket goes up, the bucket goes down. When Chad Gable got injured for 7 months, no TV, no pay-per-views, weekly pay is still the same, maybe some merchandise coming in, bucket goes down, 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 down. We continue.
Or $20,000 goes out, you wrestle on Raw, $5,000, you get a $100,000 merchandise check, except you do not receive the check. It goes into the bucket. In your bucket, you are up $95,000. Now, what happens when a wrestler gets injured or they're no longer being used on television? Same thing, your weekly check remains the same, but you will notice your bucket amount, your balance will start to decrease. If you were in the positive, you could soon be in the negative. If you were already in the negative, you could be further in the negative. Again, don't be alarmed by the negative amount. You do not owe WWE this money. Let me explain. So week 36 months later, you come back and you main event WrestleMania. You earn $500,000, except you do not get paid $500,000. It goes into the bucket. Whatever you were negative by, this will offset it. Now let's assume for the rest of the year, I was wrestling on Raw regularly, I got merchandise, and I had a few pay-per-view matches. At week 52, I am positive $325,000 in my bucket. And by week 52, I will have received $1 million on my downside guarantee. And this amount of $325,000 will essentially be a bonus. So the total amount that I made for that year would be $1.35 million. Now, for most wrestlers, I would say over 90% of wrestlers, this number is going to be in the negative. And if it's in the negative, does not matter, because after week 52, we go back to week 1 and your balance starts at 0. You do not owe WWE any money. Year 2 starts on this 3-year contract. You will make another $1 million guaranteed.
So that's why you look at Jacob Fatu as an example. Jacob Fatu, by headlining 2 pay-per-views in a row. That builds his bucket. At the end of the year, now here's what you got to understand. When people are going to say, wait, how did they come up with 5,000 for Raw? How did they come up with 50,000 for a premium live event? You know, what they do is they know how much that they're generating from their TV revenue. You know, they have to deal with ESPN. They know how much money they're going to make on every premium live event. If ESPN gave them $1 billion a year and they do 10 premium live events, I'm using simple arithmetics here, then they know that they're going to get $100 million every single premium live event, regardless of how many people go to the arena. I know that's a ridiculous exaggeration, but my point is they know already how much money they got for that premium live event from the network. Then you add in the ticket sales, you add in merchandise, you add in other things. So that's how they determine how much a Raw would be, how much a premium live event would be. They average it out to a number, but remember, the idea in the end is for WWE to make money. And I know someone out there is going to say, well, DT, I don't understand something. If someone's bucket at the end of the year was $300,000, if WWE gives that wrestler the $300,000, then they made no money because the bucket was given all to the wrestler. Here's where profit comes in. I sell a vacuum and I get paid $100 commission. That doesn't mean that the vacuum company only made $100. So when they say, all right, you appear on Raw, you get $5,000. In actual value, your appearance may be worth $10,000, but they have a set number based on obviously which show it is, what revenue, what this going on, if you wrestle, if you're this, that's how they determine it. So when you hear this example as far as these buckets go, understand that whatever number they give you that you throw in that bucket doesn't necessarily mean that's all they made. You look at merchandise. You sell 10,000 shirts, and let's say they put $20,000 in the bucket. They didn't just make $2 on a shirt. They made 10. But your cut is $2 a shirt. So that goes in the bucket. So in the end, whatever figures, obviously we need to see a WWE contract. And a lot of this bucket stuff would not be in that contract because it's incentive, it's commission. That's why when you hear certain wrestlers be like, oh, I would love to be on this premium live event. I would love to be on Raw. I would love to do this. Yeah, because this is how they make extra money out of it. But that's how they do it. So that is spectacular that he did this. And I'm shocked that no one else has done that. In my honest opinion, Jinder Mahal did not piss off TKO. He did not piss off WWE. He did not say anything controversial. If anything, you realize that these wrestlers, they work their ass off, and it is very, very challenging to do what they do. But they also get paid an insane amount of money. That's why Kevin Nash is the perfect example. When Kevin Nash was still having his hissy fits about the Hall of Fame and everything, you know, when the New Day were let go, he starts talking about, you know, the TKO and making all these millions and this and that, and it's fucked up. They're cutting contracts, and Andrew Yang comes out of his little rat hole, and he supports Kevin Nash. And then finally somebody tells, hey, Kev, this is how much these guys are making. Holy shit, I had no idea they were making that kind of money. You're making $3 million a year? And WWE says, listen, we're only going to give you $1.5 million. Even if you're not used on TV, the bucket. If you get yourself back on TV, the bucket. See, right now, Grayson Waller, your bucket, your bucket is less than this. You got no bucket right now. You know, if you're someone else, you know, they're on every single week on TV. That bucket is doing nice. Jacob Fatu right now, you think about the way this is presented, even when Jacob Fatu's in the back just doing this, just doing that, not even wrestling, that money's going in the bucket. So that is an awesome breakdown. And it also explains more why some people are let go. It's not just sitting and catering. The phrase of sitting and catering, but if they can't figure out a way to utilize you on a regular basis, someone else will be used instead. And their bucket will go up, and meanwhile, your bucket will keep going in a negative. Just imagine paying a wrestler $700,000, and they're used next to never on TV. Very, very rare. And you get frustrated. You're like, how come this person's not on TV? And then after a year, that bucket is so negative, like, why are we spending this kind of money? You even look at the R-Truth situation. R-Truth was making millions in the WWE. And then, if you go on this bucket system and you remember what R-Truth was doing, just imagine, like TKO's looking at it like, wait a minute. So we're giving this guy this amount of money every week, plus we're putting this money in the bucket because he appears on TV and all he's doing is acting like brain dead, like with all the comedy stuff. They're like, we want to use that money and spend it on someone who actually, we could build on and have wrestle and work on a pay-per-view and this and that. And that's where you start realizing when you see people not on TV or they're on TV and doing nothing, like Maxine Dupree. Listen, I'm not saying she's going to get let go, but you look at Maxine Dupree, when they started pushing her as a wrestler and she was doing the stuff with Natty again, you start thinking, wow, okay, yeah, she's really earning her pay. Now, all of a sudden, every week, she's in the back talking to Austin Theory. So you look at that and you're like, oh, the bucket. You start figuring out, okay, we're giving her this every week. And she appeared on Raw, so we're giving her this also. But all she's doing is standing in a corner talking. You start realizing, like, wait, this is how it pays. And that's why some people get let go that you don't expect because, either one, you go the year, or you go, so look at Aleister Black and Zelina Vega. They came back, and WWE, you got two people now, and Zelina's been there for a while, but you got Aleister Black returning, and I'm sure he got paid very, very well. And he was used on TV, but the way he was being used, it really wasn't going anywhere. And you just see the way it was developing, and it was like a Karrion Kross ripoff that they were doing. And then after a while, you're like, wow, we're putting all this money in this guy's pocket. We could dedicate that time to someone else. When you see Isla Dawn let go, they kept Alba Fire, and they're like, okay, we'll use her every week, and we'll put her with Chelsea Green, and we'll do like a spoof of politics and stuff like that. That's how they utilized her, and that's how they got her to stay on TV. So I thought this was spectacular. I loved it. I thought it was great. And, at least you got a better understanding. But I'll say it one last time. I can't believe no one else out there ever gave it like that. It's just simple. Very easy to understand. And, I expect David Otunga to put a video out now. Oh, yeah, he'll suddenly have all this information. No. And I don't mean that personally, but all right. Let's start bringing this home. Let's get into some more questions. Anybody have any questions coming out of that? Anybody have any questions coming out of that? I'll answer it as best as I could. But props again to Jinder Mahal for a great explanation. Miro is a good example right now. Miro there, and listen, this is probably why they didn't bring back Lana. And this is why also with Killer Cross, why they didn't want to work on Scarlett. Because, if you remember when they were negotiating, WWE told them, he's like, yeah, just sign your deal now. We'll worry about Scarlett next week. We'll worry about, no. We do it now. No. We'll work on yours now. We'll worry about her later. And you realize that they would have been putting money in a bucket and money in her pocket, and she was going to be pretty much his valet. And listen, that's WWE's fault because that's how they wanted to use her. Scarlett could do a shitload more than that, but that was WWE's fault. And WWE was like, nah, we're not. You look at Miro. If Lana would have came back with Miro, Lana would have just been in ringside. Crush him. Crush. Crush. Instead, they have Ethan Page with Miro, and Ethan Page is having matches, and Ethan Page is doing other things, and he's working AAA, and he's doing other stuff. So they're getting more in their return. That's why when people say to me, how come they don't have managers? How come they don't have valets like they used to? This is probably part of the reason why. Because the downside guarantee is so high, and then on top of it, everybody gets a percentage of the gate, so to speak, as Jim Cornette would always explain very well. You say, do we really want to take that kind of money and put it to someone doing just that? Or we could actually, bring somebody up from NXT and, get a better investment out of it. And that's kind of what's going on here. Twix says, so you get more for go-home shows, or was his math wrong? No, it's if you're on Netflix, you divide how many episodes of Raw into a year, into how much WWE gets, and they know this is how much they get. When they have events in certain arenas, they have a good idea of what is coming in. And understand something, it's not just a flat number sometimes. If a building sells out completely, that gate might be a little bit higher. That's why, here's a good example. A lot of you will remember this, and this is a great fucking example. You remember when WWE would have WrestleMania Battle Royals, Raw versus SmackDown? All the Raw wrestlers would wear red shirts and the SmackDown wrestlers would wear blue shirts. And you'd have a Battle Royal before. Now it's kind of like the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, and they do it on SmackDown. They don't do it at WrestleMania. They do it on SmackDown. So you're getting paid anyway. Now, if you're a Raw wrestler, you do get paid extra because you're appearing on an extra show, which is SmackDown. So obviously somebody goes in the pot. But back in the day, when we used to cover it, what do we always say? Yeah, they want to give everybody a WrestleMania payday. That's what this is. So if you appear at WrestleMania, even if it is the pre-show, even if it is a battle royal, yes, you get that payday also. So wrestlers sometimes would look forward to those battle royals because that's a payday. They put it on a SmackDown. It's just a SmackDown payday, not a premium live event payday. That's why sometimes you see title matches. You see title matches happen on a Raw right before Backlash or right before Night of Champions. And then you're like, oh, well, why couldn't they just have the match at the premium live event? Because their payday for Raw is a lot less than a payday at a premium live event, especially when you think of Saudi Arabia, because WWE got 50 mil. So they have their calculations, so they know exactly how much each person gets. Now, obviously, if you're main event, you get a bigger percentage. When you're lower on the card, you get a less of a percentage. So that's how they do it. And that's why you probably don't see managers and valets like you used to. That's legit the reason. Wyatt Six, great example. Wyatt Six, just remember, I don't think the Wyatt Six were getting paid crazy money. I don't think Bo Dallas was getting paid, listen, $500,000 is still fucking awesome. I would take, 10% of that if I was doing shows. But when you have 6 people coming out there, for a segment, those are 6 people that you're putting, money aside for into that, bucket. And then you're like, why are we spending this kind of money paying 6 people for a faction where, we could just, cut it down to 2, or you look at even like the MFTs. You look at the MFTs, you look at Tongaloa, you look at JC Mateo, and WWE's like, we could get away with Tama Tonga, Solo Sokoa, and Tala Tonga. And it's like, why are we spending 5 people, 6 people? So this is how it works. What you're starting to see is when you have big factions, the wrestlers in the factions are either main eventers or they're champions, or championship material. That's why you even see Judgment Day. You know, you have Roxanne Perez, Raquel Rodriguez, Liv Morgan, JD McDonough, and Dominic Mysterio right now. But Dominic is a champion. Liv is a champion. Raquel is a legitimate star. Roxanne is a legitimate star. And JD McDonough is definitely, you know, underestimated, you know, and very much appreciated. So everybody there has worth. Carlito, with all due respect, Carlito, hey, you know, give it, the bucket, right? Yeah. We're going to do a segment about the bucket. You know, WWE's like, nah, fuck that. Fuck that. You know, you want a bucket so bad, go to the store. You know, that's unfortunately how they do this. It makes more sense, especially when you see merchandise. You see merchandise being sold. Danhausen right now, holy shit, Danhausen. His downside guarantee is probably low. How much do you think Danhausen got paid? 200,000, 300,000? But that fucking bucket is already in the plus big time. So at the end of the day, he is going to make probably 2 times as much. That's why also when you look at Rock, I think he was just on Joe Rogan, and he says back in the day he made $150,000 for the WWF and working whatever dates it was. He left out all of his pay-per-view, you know, checks and merchandise and everything else. His base salary was $150,000. I believe that. But at the end of the day, he could have made $800,000. But, you know, nobody challenges that. That's the thing. People just take it face value what somebody says, and who's going to challenge Dwayne Johnson? No one's going to dare do that. So, Swabby says, does Jacob Fatu get paid extra since he's appearing on Raw and SmackDown? I would think so. I would absolutely think so. Because now remember, him appearing on SmackDown may result in someone else's segment getting cut. You never know whose segment got cut, but if someone, let's say a Kiana James is not on SmackDown this week, they could have very well said, you know what? You know, you're not on SmackDown this week. She wouldn't look in the mirror and say, motherfucking Jacob Fatu, it's because of you, asshole. No, you don't know what the reason is, but WWE isn't going to start having a plethora number of people showing up simply to load it up. But yeah, I mean, you work more, you get paid. Now, remember, in Saudi Arabia, here's a little thing. In Saudi Arabia, in the past, wrestlers got paid a bonus for going. That bonus is no longer on the TKO. That's something Jinder Mahal did not talk about, but that is a fact. You could ask anybody. So when wrestlers go to Saudi Arabia, they get their bucket for being at the Premium Live event, but they don't get an extra bonus because it's Saudi Arabia. TKO has kind of rid that. And listen, Jinder Mahal could be a little bit outdated with this, because Jinder Mahal was let go right at the start of this TKO thing. So TKO, Mark Shapiro may have looked at Jinder Mahal's video and like, I got some bad news. I got some bad news for Jinder. Jinder, we don't do that no more. You know, the bucket is now a paper bag. You know, so Jinder might be a little bit outdated with it, although I don't think so. I don't think so, because no wrestlers have come out to challenge what he said. Dream 101 says he hates how Cody talks so presidential. That's him. That is him. You know, it's funny because this week's history show, we played John Cena's pipe bomb on CM Punk from last year, because CM Punk was going to go to Saudi Arabia. But it's interesting when you listen to it back, because John Cena brings up TKO and how CM Punk is a millionaire because of TKO and everything else. And you look at Cody Rhodes, again, I'm not bringing up WrestleMania, you know, him finishing the story. But when you see how corporate Cody is and how presidential, and his manicure has manicures, and everything is prim and proper and suits and ties, and his eyelashes are perfectly groomed, almost like sometimes he looks sometimes like a wax figure. Like everything is so meticulous. I mean, this is a guy that is corporate through and through. And that's why it's so ridiculous when people want to convince you that Cody was going to go against company management because I was supposed to finish the story. You know, my dad. You know, fuck your dad. You know, like, nobody did that. Cody's not going to do that. Cody wants you to think that he's not corporate because he'll start getting booed out of the building. People start thinking Cody is just simply a corporate shill. I mean, and the perception is that he will get eaten up online. He will end up, you might as well do a corporation storyline. But I don't think that'll ever happen because Cody is too genuine. And Cody truly, you know, just goes out of his way for a lot of his fans. Cody is authentic. Cody's not putting on an act. A lot of people think CM Punk puts on an act. And you'd be shocked how many people, when I did the 4.5 hour podcast with Joey 924 2 weeks ago, you'd be surprised how many people agreed with Joey. Joey thinks that CM Punk is a fake through and through. Maybe he is straight edge, but CM Punk is corporate through and through. And there's no high moral with CM Punk, like, I believe in this, therefore I must do this. I think CM Punk is much more corporate than is perceived. Cody's the same way, but Cody comes off very much authentic. So, but yeah, that's the presentation that Cody gives. And he is that guy. Roman will never be that guy. And that's not a negative. I don't think anybody wants Roman. I mean, the closest you'll get to it is him showing up at UFC 250. You know, the White House. That's the closest you'll get of Roman's association with TKO. You don't want Roman wearing a suit, being a representative on behalf of WWE and doing like corporate stuff. Roman is more of the sweatpants kind of guy. There's not many people in the WWE that could fit that role. Right now, John Cena was the ideal person, but John Cena is an actor also, and John Cena can't work like he used to. But John Cena is still corporate through and through. Through and through, big time. Cody is that guy. That's why you're not going to change Cody anytime soon. Some people on social media, every couple of months, he's turning heel. It's time to turn him heel. It's time to turn him heel. And 2 years later, it's time to turn him heel. You see, he's turning heel. You see what he said? He's turning heel. You remember what he said? He's turning heel. And 3 years go by. He's turning heel. When someone could replace him in that role, that's when they'll turn him heel. Right now, it ain't happening. They'll toe the line. They'll toe the line to try to keep people a little silent about this. But that's why, out of everything that Jinder said, Jacob Fatu is a great example of somebody who is benefiting right now. And that is a very cool thing. So, Roderick says, having exited TNA again, do I ever see Tessa Blanchard wrestling for a major American wrestling company minus TNA? I think Tessa Blanchard has an excellent chance down the line to show up at WWE or NXT. You know, Kev, I miss him dearly. Kev said it better than anybody else. Tessa Blanchard is not a racist. She's an asshole. And there are quite a few assholes in wrestling. Tessa Blanchard can work. Yes, there are some people in the WWE that despise Tessa Blanchard, and it would have to take some meetings and some clearing of the air before Tessa Blanchard is brought in. We don't need to name any names, Chelsea Green. We don't need to name any other names, but there are a lot of names in the WWE who are not happy with Tessa Blanchard, and there would have to be a lot of clearing of the air. It's the same thing with CM Punk. No one in their right mind thinks that CM Punk was hidden in a box and kept on the side, and then when he showed up at Survivor Series, that's when some people knew. It's impossible. Wrestlers had meetings. Creative, WWE, Triple H, Nick Khan, other wrestlers, they all made sure that everybody was on the same page of what was going to happen. And, some people cleared the air, from Miz to Roman and a lot of others to Seth Rollins. A lot of this was cleared up before CM Punk made that appearance at Survivor Series. That's the right way to do things. It's not, because we think it's shock value that all these wrestlers had no idea that Drew McIntyre stormed into his car and drove away. Oh, bless you, for the people out there that thought that. These are business people. These are corporate people. They will work with each other as long as everybody's heart is in the right place. So Tessa Blanchard, under TKO, I absolutely could see her coming in. Don't know if it'll happen right away. I think she will work in CMLL more, which is very interesting in itself because, especially when you think of the La Rosa Negra situation, and she is getting accepted by Mexican fans in CMLL, like she's in the area, you would think that she would be hated the most. I do believe one day she will be in, and I think there will be a lot of clearing up that needs to be done. Some fences need to be mended. So, and let me also say this. Again, there are people in wrestling that are assholes. Doesn't mean you have to hang out with them. Doesn't mean you have to break bread with them. It doesn't mean that you have to go on the road with them, and drive together. But, you have to be cordial. Not everybody, you're not going to like everybody in your job, but some people you have to, put personal feelings aside and do what's best for business and best for your position and their position. And, you just put that aside. And that's why CM Punk worked out. That's why others worked out. WWE will do that. And trust me, some people think that Jack Perry will end up in WWE. If Jack Perry ends up in WWE, you best damn believe there'll be numerous conversations with him and CM Punk. If that has not happened already, I'm making sure the air is clear. I said this 2 years ago, that I believe that CM Punk and Jack Perry have no hate for each other. In fact, I think Jack Perry's grown up quite a bit since then, and I think CM Punk and Jack Perry, they're not cool, but I think that they're cordial. I do believe that. I really do. And I have no proof of it. It's just a feeling. And my feelings always seem to end up being pretty on point. So, Bobby Means, thank you very much, my friend. Bobby Means sent in a super shout out. If Rhea Ripley cannot go for SummerSlam, could I see them possibly vacating the title and having JC Jane win it? To Bobby, she is in the best position. Here's my take on this. I do not believe Rhea Ripley's injury is this serious. If it is this serious, they could have changed the Queen of the Ring tournament and made it whoever wins it is the champion. Could have been as easy as that, especially in Saudi Arabia. I mean, this is not necessarily like Becky Lynch and Asuka and Money in the Bank, where Asuka opens the briefcase and Becky's like, not only did you win the briefcase, you won the title as well. And Asuka's like, what? They could have easily turned Queen of the Ring into a championship match. I personally think, I always felt this, that if Io Sky was going to the final, Io Sky was going to win it, and Io Sky was going to challenge Rhea Ripley. Now, doesn't it make even more sense? Io Sky's going to face Liv. Now, if Io Sky wins Queen of the Ring, yes, you could say, Io Sky could say, I beat you once, I'll beat you again for that title. And yeah, you could have Io Sky versus Liv Morgan at SummerSlam. But I think, more importantly, it's Io Sky versus Rhea Ripley. That's the unique SummerSlam match that WWE would want to do. You could do Io versus Liv any week you want. I don't think you need SummerSlam to have that platform. Plus, Stephanie Vaquer is about to make her return, and we don't know what they're going to do with Stephanie Vaquer. I just don't think Rhea Ripley's injury is this serious. SummerSlam is still 6 or 7 weeks away. I don't believe it's this serious. You're not going to wait a month and then strip her of the title. If they don't strip Rhea Ripley of the title by next Friday, not this coming Friday, not to go home to Night of Champions, if they don't strip her by next Friday, she's not being stripped. Plus, if Io wins at Night of Champions, they're going to tease for a week or two who she's going to challenge. And if Rhea is still not stripped of the title, you don't want to plant that seed that Io could challenge Rhea and then suddenly, oh, we're stripping her of the title. You have to strip her of the title first. This way, that is not an issue. And you determine who is the next champion. They could have done this week, next week, the week after, and they didn't do that. Something tells me Rhea's injury is not as serious as some people are claiming. And I do think Io versus Rhea is still on the table. I think it's still on the table. JC Jane winning it, it's fine. I like JC Jane. I'm very impressed on how she got over as a single star as much as she did. I will always look at her and think Toxic Attraction. But she has done so good at what she has been doing. I would not be against it. I just try to think one step ahead and say, okay, if she wins the championship, who's her first feud? And I think that's a little bit of a problem. Who's her first feud? You start looking at it that way and, you start running into problems almost immediately. I mean, there's always someone you could put in that spot, but it's not as easy as it seems. So I don't know if I would put JC Jane in that spot just yet. I think you wait a little while. So, but not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. Steph. What's up, Steph? How long do I think Roman will hold that title for? Will this be his last title run? I don't think unless Roman was stepping away and retiring in the next year, I don't see this being Roman's final championship run. TKO is paying him an insanely high amount of money to be that person. Roman, as we have talked about, shows up on Raw every week and doesn't wrestle. He shows up, he comes out of the limo, somebody hands him his belt, he cuts a promo. Sometimes there's a little physicality, there's no question, but his work is on a premium live event and it's within family. So right now, my biggest complaint with Roman Reigns is, there's nothing outside of the family. Now, Seth Rollins could still challenge him at SummerSlam because Roman has no opponent. You don't need a King of the Ring winner to challenge Roman. So Seth being eliminated, okay, that's fine. Seth could still challenge him. That match could still happen. I think as long as Roman Reigns is healthy enough and his schedule allows it, I think if Roman sticks around for another 5 years, he absolutely could win that championship again. TKO, when you're getting paid that kind of money and the incentive that all his family have some pretty heavy buckets right now, Jinder Mahal's explanation makes you see what's going on in this story in a much different light. Because of Roman Reigns right now, this storyline is so much more real than we realize. Because of Roman Reigns, the Usos, Jacob Fatu, Tama Tonga, Tala Tonga, Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu. I don't know if I mentioned Jacob once or twice, but every single bloodline member is benefiting off of Roman Reigns right now because the whole storyline is focused around Roman Reigns. So Roman Reigns being on TV, even if he takes a week off here and there, every member of his bloodline is benefiting from this. So right now, his return is to not only put money in his pocket, but to put money in all of the Bloodline members' pockets. And now you got Jey main eventing fucking Night of Champions, and then Jey being one of the main events possibly at SummerSlam. He's getting paid quite nicely. Jacob Fatu's getting paid quite nicely right now. Big Jim, not so much, but he's still getting paid. Everybody's benefiting. Even Tala Tonga is benefiting from it because he's just being around this allows him to get paid. So I think Roman will have the championship again. How long he keeps it, I would say till at least SummerSlam, maybe shortly after. I personally think SummerSlam has to be the time for him to lose it because you're getting into August. After that, you start the road to Survivor Series. And you kind of feel like you need to start going in a different direction. And especially that people are going to demand Obafemi versus Roman. If Roman retains at SummerSlam, Oba versus Roman is going to be a match that the IWC is going to keep blowing up and pushing. And they're going to get extremely frustrated when WWE's not even remotely thinking about doing that. And ain't no way Roman is going to keep that championship all the way to WrestleMania to lose it that way. So I think Roman losing the title at SummerSlam right around that time period is probably the best way to go. And then that allows someone else to run with it. And then that leads into Survivor Series and a whole different, set of circumstances. And then, when you get to WrestleMania next year, it's anybody's guess. Look, we did on the History Show 2 weeks ago that was really funny. There was 4 big news sites. I think it was Yahoo Sports, Sports Illustrated, The Sportster, and someone else, I think Bleacher Report. And 2 weeks ago, we did this on the episode, a year earlier at this time, they predicted not the outcomes, but they predicted matches that were going to occur at WrestleMania 42, the one we just had. And we counted 39 matches. Those 4 websites came up with predictions of what the matches were going to be at WrestleMania 42. Out of the 39 matches that they predicted, not one of them happened. Not one. Not a single one. So what does that tell you? You have these experts, every single match they thought was going to happen at Mania did not happen. So whatever we're thinking could happen at Mania next year, other than maybe like Oba Roman or something like you just toss it out the window because no one was able to figure out what they were going to do with 42. So I think Roman will keep it to SummerSlam. I really do. And who he drops it to, I could see Seth regaining it. I don't know if Oba should have the championship this soon. I don't think so. I don't think it's necessary. Seth could get it, and then it could end up going to Braun. You got Bronson Reed that's going to be making a return, and Bronson Reed, the way this guy's looking right now, if he could stay healthy, man, that's a guy that I honestly think could end up becoming a world champion. It's going to be really interesting to see, but one thing we've realized over the last 2 years, you could write down or type it, you could write down exactly who WWE wants to push to the top. LA Knight is one of the ones that we want to see him get there. We think he might, but something is just holding it back. Like you could add it up. You look at Raw, you could look at Roman. I'm not saying Jay's going to win a championship, but you go, when I say to you, who's the guys that WWE would absolutely consider putting at the top? That they would consider. You got Roman, you got Jey, you have possibly LA Knight, you got CM Punk, although he might go to SmackDown, Oba eventually. There's not many. You're not going to see anybody branch out and break out. Chad Gable, there's a lot more that needs to be done there. So they only have a handful of names that are in that pot that they would consider having a run. Braun Breaker, of course. Seth Rollins, of course. I think that's pretty much a given. Logan Paul, but that's not happening anytime soon because of injury. But you see my point. Everybody we just mentioned, it's rinse and repeat. It's rinse and repeat. LA Knight saying the same shit about the bloodline he did a year ago. Jey Uso saying the same shit that he did 5 years ago. Roman Reigns, everything he throws challenges. Royce Keys, Royce Keys not going to get a shot against Roman. It's a lot of smoke and mirrors, but there's a lot of rinse and repeat going on. Braun Breaker, Seth Rollins. Braun Breaker, Jey Uso. Braun Breaker, Seth Rollins. Braun Breaker, LA Knight. Braun Breaker and Austin Theory, LA Knight and Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins and Montez Ford. Montez Ford and Seth Rollins. It's just like the same people. It's all right. We still got some time. I think we still got about a half hour. And then we'll start wrapping this up a little bit. Tristan wants to know my thoughts on Kane doing a tombstone on a priest at Edge and Lita's wedding. I thought it was pretty hilarious. This week is the anniversary of Kane taking off the mask and looking like Larry of the Three Stooges. This is the anniversary of it. And I like that over-the-top stuff. It's wrestling. I mean, we've watched horror films where priests are killed. I mean, I don't want to see that, but we've seen horror films where animals are killed. It's not real, thank God, but the point is, tombstoning a priest is not as big of a deal as it seems to be. I forget how awesome Kane was back in the day. Whether he was a heel or a babyface, I enjoyed his babyface run. I know some people are not in sync with his politics. I get it. Totally respect that. But for me, just Kane was much better than I ever thought that we thought he was. Especially early on when we were like, wait a minute, that's Isaac Yankem. Wait a minute, that's the fake Diesel. Now, this is what he's doing. That's Unabomb. He was always impressive, but I don't think we ever thought that he would be as big as he was. And, Undertaker helped him, Paul Bearer, Mankind, so many people, Triple H. I mean, he had the right people around him to feud with. That's the thing. You could be a great performer. You don't have the right talent surrounding you to bounce off of. It's not easy. It's not easy. You even see, Cody, is having a difficult time as champion, not because he's doing anything wrong, but when you look at it, it's like, wow, they really don't have anybody that feels like a threat to Cody's title. Gunther had to be moved from Raw to SmackDown to make it seem even a threat. But outside of that, he had a challenge from AJ Styles way back. He had Logan Paul. You look at some of the names, sure, he had Cena, but, it's not like a list of wrestlers that you feel like, oh, this person I think he has a shot at beating him for it. The closest was Gunther. And we see the bullshit that they put on there. So some wrestlers, even Jey, when Jey won that championship, WrestleMania last year, you think about afterwards, and it's like, okay, who's going to be the next threat? And outside of Braun Breaker, which I think he was injured at the time, when you look at some of the names, it's like nobody was really a viable threat. And then you had to force Gunther to take time off because he was the only person. And then when Gunther came back, they decided, oh, he's going to target Michael Cole and Pat McAfee. And that just pissed people off even more. And then eventually they had to do the obvious, and Gunther got his baby back. He beat Jey. But you see some of these champions crowned, I always say, okay, what's next? That's why even with JC Jane on SmackDown, if she becomes the women's champion, okay, what's next? Who does she feud with? You could come up with a name, but if it doesn't feel like something strong, it's like, okay, you're putting a belt on someone just to put a belt on them. So, Soapbox. Which version of the Stooges was best in my opinion? It's always going to be Mo, Larry, Curly. Mo, Larry, Curly. Shemp, I thought was okay. Who was the other guy? We had Mo, Larry, Curly, Mo, Larry, Shemp, and Mo, Larry, Joe. It was Joe, right? I hated Joe. And not Samoa Joe, but Joe of the Three Stooges. He tried, I watched documentaries over the years, and, you know, I have a newfound respect for some of those guys, especially some of the work they did before becoming a stooge. Curly Joe, that's what it was. I never liked him. I remember every week as a kid watching the Three Stooges on TV, and whenever they would show the black and white graphic and you would see Mo, Larry, Joe, I would change the channel. Not interested. Took a long time for me to even like Shemp, but Joe tried to be Curly too much. And yes, they have similar physical features, but Curly Joe I despise. For me, it's always Mo, Larry, Curly. Mo, Larry the cheese. Mo, Larry the cheese. I even when they did the movie several years ago, they did the remake, I actually thought that was pretty good. I always laughed at Mo Howard's haircut and his mustache. Need I say more? I always looked at that and I'm like, if they came around in 2026, Mo would not have that haircut and mustache. Let's just leave it at that. I always looked at that and I'm like, is there like a hidden German joke here somewhere? I just always saw that and I was like, it looks too German to me, man. It looks too German to me. Yeah, I never liked Curly Joe. Never liked him. Most people say Mo, Larry, Curly. The originals are always the ones. The ones you fall in love with are the ones that you always stick to. Even like the Little Rascals. I never liked the Little Rascals when I was a kid, but I found myself watching it sometimes. Then they started bringing in like other Rascals. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. You know, it was just, I don't know. I just like the originals. And then, you know, years later when I became a young adult or an older teenager, then I realized that they did pornography, trying to pretend the Little Rascals. And Darla wasn't as innocent as we thought she would be. And like, okay, it makes it look a different light. Yeah, I was never a fan of Little Rascals. Joe Besser. Yes, that was his name, Joe Besser. He actually did a lot of comedy work leading into that. And I even think they wanted him to be a member of the Three Stooges sooner. And for some reason it didn't happen. I know he tried, but just the comedy stuff that they did, Mo, Larry, and Curly are the best. So, all right. 316 says, do I think that Slow needs to go back to NXT? I think he means Salruka. She's been sloppy. No, I don't think so. I think some of the sloppiness is attributed that she hasn't worked with a lot of these wrestlers all that long. And she's kind of like learning on the job. You know, especially when you're in there with, you know, legitimate established stars. There's a little extra pressure added. And that's why I think if you look closely, like Sal is mixed in with a lot of tag matches. Now they're doing four ways. They're trying not to have a lot of the focused one-on-one. I just think as she puts in the time, listen, I remember when LA Knight, I remember this clearly. We talked about it. I remember when LA Knight came up from NXT. He already had main roster career in TNA. Guy could work. But I remember when he would do that move when he would jump on the rope to, you know, to hit the suplex. He would jump to the top rope or the middle rope, and he would slip sometimes. Or he would go to do the suplex and he'd kind of like fumble. And I remember people making a big deal about it. And, you know, as a little time went on, it just started to, you know, mesh a little bit more and work with the same people over and over again. And that's why these house shows are so important. Thank God WWE realized or convinced TKO to realize that these house shows are absolutely needed. If the house shows have to be in other countries so they can bank big money off of it, all right, so be it. But these house shows are absolutely necessary to get the extra work. There'll always be footage capped, like we showed you earlier with Liv Morgan and Salruka. There's always going to be footage that someone's going to cap where something just looks sloppy and horrendous, but that's how you improve. I always remember the first house show that AEW did. Does anybody remember what happened? That first house show? Britt Baker was in a match. I have the footage somewhere, but Britt Baker was in a match, and they fucked up a move so bad that it trended online, and AEW did everything they possibly could to copyright flag anybody out there that remotely tried to put that clip online. They wanted to bury it and bury it and bury it. And the worst part about it was, even when they were showing like footage online, if they would have just left it and people would have said, Britt Baker is much better than that, people would have forgot about it. But because they went so hardcore to pull that footage down, everybody took notice of it. Sometimes you got to just realize, hey, sometimes someone's going to slip up here and there, and you build from that. You just improve. I think Salruka is just fine. I just think that some of the people she's working with, she's not used to working with, and you will have a slip up here and there. I think she's fine. I really do. Yeah, I mean, it's all about reps. It's all about reps. Listen, when I was telling the story about me in the wrestling school, just trying to learn back bumps, I couldn't do it. But what I did learn was when wrestlers would dive onto me outside the ring, I knew how to catch them. I knew how to fall. I knew how to, even if I needed to hit someone or take a punch, there was other things that I learned and did very well. Listen, there's 2 or 3 wrestlers out there. I don't know if they still remember me, but I have proof. There's 2 or 3 wrestlers on the indie circuit in the Northeast that when they used to mention my name, they used to, there was one guy, Sabotage, they used to say, I loved when, Don Tony caught me. It was like I felt like I was floating in the air. Like I just knew how to catch someone. I have plenty of footage of it. People would dive onto me and I would fall back a certain way and hold them as we're doing it, and they don't even touch the ground. And some people used to say, Deranged. I think it was Deranged, the one that used to hang out with Teddy Hart. A lot of you remember Deranged. Deranged, there was 2 matches where he had to dive outside the ring and he landed on me. And both times he's like, oh my God. He's like, I felt like Santa Claus hugged me as I was going down. And that was a nice compliment. I wasn't very good at anything else, but the point is, you learn in one thing and, you might not be well in something else, but you build from it. So, and I was absolute shit of the shits. But, I think putting in reps, that's the only way to get better. Putting in reps. Some people, it's about timing. Dana Brooke was a great example of that. Dana Brooke it was always about timing with her. When she was in WWE, whether it was WWE or NXT, the timing was just never there. Somebody fixed that in TNA, and I don't know who to give props to, but somebody fixed that timing issue with Ash by Elegance, and she took it to another level, and she deserves all that credit. All the years that I criticized how awful she was, and it was always timing. She knew how to do moves and take them, but the timing was always off. They fixed that. Reps do that. Reps do it. Reps do it. Reps are so important. But sometimes reps will also make you realize somebody doesn't have a shot. It's like somebody who shoots, I brought this up before, it's like somebody who shoots 1,000 free throws in their backyard every single day. They're in their backyard on their basketball court shooting 1,000 free throws and do that for months, and they still can't do it. Just because you swing a bat 100 times a day doesn't mean that you're suddenly going to become a 300 hitter. Some people will just never catch on. And I don't know this guy Perch that we were talking about earlier with the Tommy Dreamer stuff. Obviously, he was trying to be a wrestler at some point, and he was not good. Maybe it was so bad that it could have put other people's, their health in jeopardy. When someone is, here's a funny thing. This is spectacular. I used to cut this promo in the indie circuit, and I cut it once with Bully Ray joking around when he challenged me and Kevin to show up at TNA, confront us in the ring. A lot of you remember that. I mean, Kevin, Bully Ray became cool. All right, I have nothing negative to say about Bully Ray right now. We're talking over 10 years ago. But, when people were like trying to turn it into a storyline, I turned around and I said, Bully Ray better watch the fuck out. And I mean this. I take my glasses off. I will tell him and anybody else out there in wrestling world, from Teddy Hart and everybody else who want to kick my ass, you do not want to fuck with me. I am the most dangerous person that you could ever step in the ring with. And I mean this. I'm not joking around right now. I am the most dangerous, even at my age, I am the most dangerous person for any of them to step in the ring with. You know why? Because I don't know what the fuck I am doing. I will fucking drop you on your head, not even realizing it. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I am the most dangerous person on the road because I don't know how to drive. That's where you got to turn around. You're like, I'm going to make sure you never fucking wrestle anywhere because you're going to kill somebody. Not intentionally. I'm the most, I used to do that on the indie circuit. Hey, what do you think? He challenged you to a match. You don't want to mess with me. I'm the most dangerous person I'll ever step in the ring with. Really? Yeah, because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. But it was true. It was true. I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I learned, but I used to joke. I used to be like, you don't want to mess with me. I'll fucking put you in the hospital. Because I'll drop you on your head and not even realize it. I think I was just going to like lift up your foot and somehow you ended up in a wheelchair. Like, don't fuck with me. Because I don't know what I'm doing. But seriously, with a lot of these wrestlers, like that guy Perch, I'm sure he was very hurt and offended by hearing that from Tommy Dreamer. But to hold that grudge all these years later and then just throw it out here like this, I'm like, that's part of what's wrong with society these days. Some people don't learn thick skin. I mean, all these people, if I actually sat here and said half the things that some people in wrestling had said about me, even when I was doing my indie garbage stuff, I used to hang out in the hotel rooms with Raven. I mean, Raven was very, very cool. And once in a while I would say, hey, what do you think I should do this? And he's like, no. And he would just flat out tell me, he's like, you're out of shape. You're this, you're this. Honestly, you want me to tell you the truth? And he would just tell me, and I'll be like, thank you. Honestly, I would say, thank you. I needed to hear the truth. When Cross, I don't mean to name drop Cross, but he's a great example. Anyone out there could ever ask him, bring this up. Killer Cross, Karrion Kross, was a big supporter of our show before he ever got into wrestling. And in his early days, we would criticize things about him. You would have other people saying, oh, put him on the main roster. Oh, he deserves the title. And we would turn around and say, nah, he's not ready. And Kevin and I would give criticism, and he would say, thank you. He says, I needed to hear that. People were saying to me, like, why are they wasting you in NXT? You should be already even be in WrestleMania. Cross used to say to us, I don't want to hear that. I appreciate their support. I don't want to hear that because I know I'm not ready. Tony D'Angelo, when he made his debut on NXT, some of my friends out there, that's it, put the title on him. That's it. That's your next world champion. And I'm like, what? I'm like, fucking guy doesn't even know how to wrestle out of a paper bag yet. Why? Because you like the gimmick? Because it clicked? Like, no, that's not what somebody wants to hear. Some people out there want to know the truth. If I'm doing something negative with my wife, and I'm not just talking about that, but if I'm doing something negative, I'll tell her, say, listen, you have a problem with this, or you upset with this, or you don't like this? And she'll tell me. I'm like, I want to know the truth. My wife sometimes will wear an outfit, and she'll say, what do you think? And I look at her, and I'm like, you want me to tell you to make you feel good, or you want me to tell you the truth? And she would tell me, yeah, I want to know the truth. And I'll be like, looks like you have fat rolls. And my wife is skinny. And I would say, that shirt doesn't look good on you. I'm like, pull it out of your pants. Like, just wear it loose. And she would look in the mirror. First, she'd get mad at me and she'd be like, I'm not fat. And then she looks in the mirror and she's like, yeah, I guess you're right. You know, like, some people do want to know the truth. If I think that I'm great at podcasting, I mean, when I used to do my hotline, people used to say to me, who is this guy? You know, I'd rather somebody be honest with me and tell me, listen, you know, you're not very good at this. You're not very good at that. Thank you. Thank you. I don't hold it as a grudge. I have a chip on my shoulder. And one day I may say to that person privately, like, what were you saying? But I say it joking around. I don't think Tommy Dreamer had any personal vendetta against any of these people. And if someone out there is going to get so offended by it, they may need to look in the mirror and say to themselves, you know, maybe I need to grow a little bit of thick skin. Because if they thought they could make money with you, they would have. But some people just get violently offended by things and they hold this grudge. And that's why I wanted to put him on this poster. Listen, I've criticized Tommy Dreamer a lot over the years. The snooker thing from 2 years ago, like I said, I felt guilty about that. But I'm always trying to clear up bullshit. And I'm sorry, I ruined something that he pushed for 20 years. For 20 years, from 1993, or for 30 years, what am I talking about? From 1993 to 2023. Tommy Dreamer is the first person ever to kick out of the Superfly Splash. When I first heard it, I was like, I hope he doesn't tune into my 2018 history episode. But I let it go. And people would always bring it up. Fade, you know, that fucking, you know, that guy that engagement farms, because that's his livelihood. That's how he makes money. Every year, you know, the anniversary that Tommy Dreamer is the first person to kick out of Superfly Splash. And I was like, all right, whatever. And then finally, I think 2 years ago, Tommy Dreamer, and I still have the tweet somewhere, Tommy Dreamer boasts how he was the first person. And I was like, enough is enough. So I post the footage of, I think, Kevin Von Erich kicking out of it like fucking 10 years, 15 years earlier. And I had another one too. And I'm like, just to clear up. And he sent me a DM and he's like, you know, well, you know, like commercially, or he said it something like, you know, that was a house show. And it was almost like, you know, don't ruin the fun. And I honestly felt bad after. And I was like, you know, I know he's a nice guy and I didn't want to like ruffle it, but, you know, do you want to be part of a story that's not true? You know, but, you know, I do think Tommy Dreamer needs to realize in this day and age, you have to walk around with kid gloves. Veterans will get it. You see a little of that with the Hangman Page and others. I don't take advice from veterans. He's not the only one that said that. People say it in different ways. Like some people will just take it in. Some people are outdated. Jim Cornette is grossly outdated. Jim Cornette hates half of the comedy stuff in wrestling. That's his right. That's his opinion. Respect it. But not hold it against him to like when the time is right that you're just going to gang up and just make this guy look tiny. I think Tommy Dreamer needs to learn from this, that if he gives any advice, if he does seminars, if he works for another company, my two pieces of advice is don't be head of a creative again. And the second piece of advice is any up-and-coming wrestler, treat him with kid gloves. If you don't have anything good to say, leave the room. That's how you got to treat some people. Especially if you see someone, you know, do not always think the worst. If I tell this guy, listen, for this promotion, I don't think we could get a cocky black guy over. You know, might be better off saying, nah, I'm just, listen, I haven't seen you enough to know. I mean, just keep doing what you're doing. I just, you know, I don't know if it would, you know, that character would work here. You know, but, you know, the thing is, you got to just treated with kid gloves. It doesn't make what Tommy Dreamer said any better, but he definitely, there's some people out there that just take this and literally live with it. I mean, I watch some of the people bringing shit out, and Danny Jordan. I think Danny Jordan, she's a great wrestler. Go look at her X post today. You know what she said? I waited for this. Danny don't know who I am, and I don't expect her to ever know who I am. And I'm not saying it. I've always said that she's talented. But when you write, I waited for this, that's not flattering. That's almost kind of disturbing. All right. If he told you something that was a little bit felt sexist to you, all right, yeah, that's someone you don't approach for advice again. Somebody that might be a little bit too old school, somebody that is definitely not in sync with what you want to do, and you move on. But to turn around and have this book of grudges that I waited for this, that's not good. That's not good. If I held a book of grudge for everybody that has put me down or something to criticize me, oh my God. You got to just prove them wrong. And they don't need to know when you prove them wrong. That's the thing. Every single person that we mentioned earlier, what do they all have in common? They needed all of you to acknowledge them, to tell them, Perch, you're an awesome referee. Perch, do not listen to that. Perch, you're awesome. You're a great person. Perch, don't listen to them. Perch, you keep doing what you're doing. You needed that public extra hug. And to me, that says a lot. He didn't publicly humiliate you. You publicly humiliated him. I just think things sometimes should be left private, and you don't go to that person for advice again. Tell your friends. Listen, don't go to them for advice. Tell your friends what happened. But when you go out there, I waited for this moment, that's disturbing in my opinion. So, all right, we're going to wrap this up. Let's take it home. Let's bring it home. Gorilla Jack, shout out to you, my friend. Going to be putting some more Mass Maniac retro episodes online momentarily. I'm looking for one of my old hard drives that have a bunch of Chris Candido episodes on there, which was a lot of fun. Some great ones with Too Cold Scorpio. Those were a lot of fun. There's some gems out there. I just got to find the hard drive. I don't know where it is, but I do have other episodes that will be going up soon, the vault. And you could go on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your audio shows from, and just search. There's a lot of old content there. We put up about 2,000 old episodes up this year. So access them, download them. Helps us. And at the same time, you get to hear a lot of vintage good shit. So Jumpin' says Rusev would make a good doink. Funny thing is, I could picture him walking around and being goofy like that. I just, Rusev is good. Rusev is one of those big, burly, international, annoying people that you want to see them get their ass kicked and you want to see your fan favorite beat them, but you also want to see them have a match. Rusev is someone that I want to see on TV. Even if I want to see him lose all the time, he's someone I want to see on my TV. It's like Matt Cardona, with all due respect, without the woo-woo-woo, he's nothing. He's nothing. What's his gimmick? Oh, I'm serious now? That's nice. What do the little kids do when they come down to ringside? Matt! 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 No, they're all like, woo-woo-woo, woo-woo-woo. Like to make a statement. I'm Matt Cardona. I'm not... I'm telling you, Matt Cardona, by this time in 2024, in 2027, he'll either be released or Zack Ryder gimmick will return. It will not last another year. And I'm not saying in any bad way. I'm not saying to throw shade at him. I actually find him very entertaining. But in the world of WWE, especially with TKO, you need to have a character. You need to have a connection with the fans. And just wrestling good is not good enough anymore because everybody knows how to wrestle. You know, being able to talk is all nice and everything, but there's a shitload of people that know how to talk. You need to have that connection. You need to have the fans interacting with you. You need to have a fucking catchphrase. You need to have something. When the fans go out there, you know, there's some interaction somewhere. You know, being somebody's friend, being somebody's this, or being that, it's not good enough. It's just like even when the Motor City Machine Guns came in. A lot of people hated me for what I said. They made their debut. I said, that's it. I said, what little kids, the WWE Universe is going to give a shit about 240-something-year-olds going out there? Why? Because their music goes, rum, rum, rum. Yeah, but what they did in TNA, you think those kids cared what he did in TNA? Like, tell me what stands out so much in the WWE Universe that people get into them. They had great fucking matches. Absolutely helped a lot of wrestlers while they were there. But in the end, that's a very, very, very temporary thing. That's kind of what the Motor City Machine Guns were, kind of like a TV show that's had multiple seasons, that's kind of having a dull season. So they bring in a special guest actor or actress for like a bunch of episodes just to add a little bit of, you know, interest in the show. And then after a few episodes, like, okay, that's it. Time to move on. That's what they were. They were never designed there to finish their career there or this and that. It was, okay, you know, let's have a little burst, you know, just get a little extra in there and then bye-bye. All right, let's wrap this up with two more questions. I do remember Sal in the chat. I remember quite a few. Joey and I were reminiscing the other day. Some of the names, there's some that are still around, but they changed their names over the years. You know, it's pretty cool to see some people pop up on Patreon still that bring up like their old nicknames from the past. You know, it's pretty cool to see people still out there supporting, doing what we were doing. So, but it is interesting too, because some people say to me, oh, you remember so-and-so in the chat? I'm like, yeah, I remember him. Whatever happened to him? That's me. I'm like, wow, okay. Because you got to remember too, when we had that chat room in 2006, that's 20 years ago. So somebody who was maybe 21, you know, at that time is now 41. And they probably don't want to go by some of their nicknames from back in the day, you know, so people change over the years. Yeah, I mean, even, you know, like, the Motor City Machine Guns, honestly, I think they'd be a nice fit in AEW, but their tag team division is so overloaded, man. I mean, they'll end up doing the Ring of Honor thing. I personally, and you don't even see them really working much on the indie scene. You'll see a little here, a little there. But you also got the New Day that are going to be coming into AEW, so that's another tag team. I know FTR is taking a little bit of a hiatus, but even with that, I don't think the Motor City Machine Guns are a good replacement for anything. So I think they'll ultimately end up either back in TNA, which I'm not so sure. Oh, and by the way, we'll talk about it tomorrow, but this article that came out about TNA being up for sale for $30 million or $40 million, and I don't have the guy's name offhand, but he is the exact same Matarazz, like the guy that said that HBO Max does 500,000 viewers for AEW. It's the same type. That's what it is. It's another BJ Bethel. This story floating around that's trending about TNA up for sale and all this other stuff. Some of that is common news. But all of this insider stuff, that is a figment of his imagination. We will talk about it tomorrow. But I'd like to set him up on a date with BJ Bethel. If they both like their M&Ms with peanuts, I think they would have a beautiful relationship together. I think those two guys would have an amazing relationship. I can imagine them in the bedroom together, you know, just proposing their next fake story to try to get headlines. I give them credit, because they do get headlines over it, but that story is not 100% fake, but it's about 90% fake. It's somebody who, I don't want to get controversial here, but you know about that Carmelo Anthony guy that is going to jail now for, Lord knows how long for the stabbing incident? That whole story is fucked up. And I'm not here to convict or acquit or anything like that. But one thing that came out of that tragedy, which no one out there is going to dispute, is you had advocates of his that would see the video and tell a story. And what they do so well is they'll take parts of the story that's true and they'll surround it with bullshit. When they said they saw footage of him being jumped and then he ran away and he tripped and this and that, like the tripping part is true. Running away is true. But he ran away because he stabbed someone. You see people out there that will take little pieces of the truth and then surround it with bullshit. And that's what master manipulators do. And just like this BJ Bethel and this other Matarats with the TNA stuff, it's a bad comparison, but people are very, very talented at doing that. They'll take one or two facts and they'll make sure it's in there. So you have some facts like, oh, so everything else must be true also. And you realize that 80% of the story is just bullshit. It's what they want you to think it is. So, all right, everybody. I'm out of here. I will be back tomorrow. Not sure it'll be live yet. I will definitely let everybody know probably by 4:30. I think what it really comes down to is let's see what happens on Raw. Raw is going to be on at 2 p.m. Eastern because they are overseas. I will definitely take in Raw. And we are going to be doing predictions for Night of Champions. It's going to be an interesting prediction show because some of my predictions I have not moved from, and I don't think I am going to move from. We'll also know a little bit more tomorrow about Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan obviously will have a big part of this. We'll try to find out some more about Rhea Ripley. Again, I'm convinced that she's going to be fine for SummerSlam, but we'll definitely do that tomorrow. We'll get into some news. Maybe we'll follow up a little bit on what we talked about today. I definitely want to dispel that TNA fake news stuff. And then we'll recap Raw. So I'll let everybody know tomorrow after Raw if we're going to stream live on YouTube or if I just pre-record it. So, but remember, the following week, they're back in the States, but Raw will be on at 6 p.m. Eastern. Even though they'll be back in the States, they'll be in Jersey. But that building had to be finished by, 9, 10 p.m. or whatever it is. So they had to start Raw earlier than usual. So 2 weeks from now, I believe Raw starts at 6 p.m. Eastern. That episode, we should be live right after because that'll be about 8:40 p.m. And we go from there. So let me know what you think. What we talked about earlier with the Dreamer stuff, with the Jinder Mahal stuff. If anybody has any follow-up questions, post it in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer them. And big shout out, as always, to all of you out there who just support what I do and never left. And those who returned after a little bit of a hiatus, I appreciate each and every one of you. And, I take this very seriously. You take the time to tune into anything I say, I owe it to you to be respectful and say what I mean and mean what I say. And not just play on words simply to trigger a reaction or an emotion from you. We'll tell it like it is all the time. As Jacob Fatu says, we always keep it 100. So be well, everybody. Much love. I'll definitely see you tomorrow. We just don't know what time yet.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.